I remember when I was reading that book, said, "Oh, not even Jesus can protect me from my own frequency." So it's your job. It's my job.
Yeah, and the fact is, and what that refers to is free will. We all have free will, and we've all come into this state of separation away from God as we believe it to be, that we're, we feel alone, we feel separated from God. A lot of people don't feel him, don't see him, they feel alone, but we've chosen to come here, and we have to choose to go in the opposite direction of separation, which is forgiveness and love. But they can't make us do it. We have to do it voluntarily. And so what most people are experiencing in their spiritual journey, whether it's at church or whether it's doing A Course in Miracles, is they're experiencing this split. The desire for the world, the desire for sex, drugs, rock and roll, the desire for money, the desire for power, the desire for this experience, this human experience. And then we're also experiencing inspiration and creativity and love and these higher aspects of our mind. So really, it's the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. That's where that story comes from. We are all experiencing a confusion, a desire for love and connection to spirit, and a lust, a love, a belief in the world and all that it has to offer us. And that's why we have this sort of trials and tribulations, and we have mixed emotions, and we have good days and bad days, because we're going back and forth between these two aspects, but they are not good and evil in the traditional sense that you might think of it from the church's point of view. They are our minds being reflected back to us. So it's always us. We are not being tempted by the devil. We are chasing after the idols that we came here to chase after. So we all came to this world to experience physical, material things that we still believe in. The Bible might call them false idols. But we also have this desire to return home to God. And that's really the journey that we're on. And you, for example, saying there, you're doing a translation, which is your desire to connect to spirit. You feel it, you love it. And then this voice comes in, but why don't you do this,
exactly like that.
It's really a split mind. So that's what everybody's journey is choosing love more and more frequently, choosing forgiveness more and more frequently. And that's why Jesus made such a big deal about forgiveness, because forgiveness is the way that you let the world go. You let the material world and separation is maintained by judgment. Judgment is the ego's food, and it's war's food, and it's hatred's food. And so the less we judge, the closer to love we get, and the better we feel. So this is really about understanding that when we feel happy and connected and content, we're on the right track. If we feel judgmental, angry, self-righteous, you can put any list of negative emotions on there. We have sided with the shadow side of our mind, and we are walking away from love, and that's why we feel bad. So the teachings really say there's one road. You're either walking to love or you're walking away from love. The further away from love you get, the darker your life gets, right? So that's what we're all deciding. And we can be going back and forth towards love and back. We can do it many times a day. Based on the decisions that we're making. So really, these books that I've channeled are designed to help people understand their minds, and to understand that your guidance system, how you feel, is a gift from God to help you find your way. So suffering and sacrifice, which has been really perpetuated by the church, makes you feel bad. That means you're off track, you're heading the wrong way. Whereas following the things you love, being creative, adventuring in the world, in places that you enjoy, that make you happy, that means you're on track. God wants us to be happy. God doesn't want us to suffer. That's it in a nutshell. But it's been very, very confused by religious teachings and conventional teachings.
And can you describe Jesus' physical appearances? It's not just a curiosity. My idea is demystify one of the Catholic ideas about Jesus' images. I mean, blue eyes, blonde hair. You know, I mean that. You know, in the book Jesus Maria Toravio, you told us about Jesus' physical appearance. Can you describe it for the people who are listening?
I can't think of the exact words, but basically he said he had black curly hair that was kind of shoulder length because it got too unruly in the desert if it got longer. And he said basically, I look like a terrorist.
Yeah, I remember that.
He said I look like you'd think a terrorist looked like. So he looked like a Middle Eastern man. I always envision him as very handsome, though. So that's just me.
Of course, yes. No,
yeah, he obviously was a very charismatic person, and people loved being around him. But my feeling is that, you know, we've all been around people who aren't necessarily beautiful, but they have a very nice energy about them, and we enjoy being around them. So I think he was very attractive on many levels, probably energetically. People found him irresistible, as you and I have found him. Like, here we are doing this work. This work
because of him.
It's irresistible, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Even though we could be laughed at, or you know, in the beginning, like I said, I was, you know, worried that I might be arrested or put in a mental institution or something. And but I continued on because the work is so true and clear. And the thing that I love about it is that it's logical and it makes sense. It's logical and it makes sense, and it explains the suffering in the world, which traditional religion really doesn't. It says things like God moves in mysterious ways when someone can't explain, you know, why babies die of leukemia, why these things that you know. So
why, if you are a good person, you suffer?
It doesn't make why if what the Bible teaches is true, if you were a good person, you wouldn't suffer, but it's not true. So the reason I loved A Course in Miracles, which is, of course, what led to my channeling Jesus, and I studied that for 12 years very, very deeply, was that it explained everything. It explained why, for example, I had an eating disorder and I was obsessed with my physical appearance. It explains how the ego uses the body as a weapon, and manipulates us through the body, and how we use the body. So there were things like that which got my attention very, very early on in the course. But when I first started reading the course, I had 2 out-of-body experiences within 3 weeks of starting the course. I'd never had an out-of-body experience in my life. And on two consecutive days when I was doing my Course in Miracles lessons, I left my body and I was taken into another realm and given messages. And I was like, whoa, because I didn't really know what A Course in Miracles was when I started reading it. My sister bought it and gave it to me. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a TV. So this book I had no idea. I didn't even know who wrote it. I didn't know that Jesus was the voice in A Course in Miracles until he said something about my crucifixion. And then I was like,
okay,
whoa, hang on a second. What? This is Jesus talking. Oh, okay. So I had a very unusual experience, which most people don't get to have now. I sort of had this very pristine experience with A Course in Miracles because I was not influenced by any teachers. I was not watching videos. I was not reading any other books. I had this very, very unique, which is very difficult to have right now because of the proliferation of videos, which are very, very helpful. But I think in some way I was very fortunate. I had this very sort kind of a monastic experience.
Yeah,
of the
clear
course.
mind at that
It
time.
was
Yeah,
very clear. It was very clear. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Please, the next is a year of forgiveness, un año de perdón, because I really love this book as well, and I quite sure that in time, maybe 10 years time, many universities will teach this book because it's
Oh,
like a
yeah.
manual. I always say to this to people, say, no, 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 it's gonna be impossible. No, and believe me, I don't know when exactly, but in time, this book
Mhm.
is gonna be teaching in some universities because it's like it's the for the first time we have the manual to master our mind. So
Mhm.
I think that is the importance of that book, yeah, and A Year of Forgiveness, Un Año de Perdón in Spanish. So can you as well describe or how was the process of this book?
Well, I think it was 2019 it came through. It was, I think, New Year's Eve. And I thought, I'm going to do the lessons of A Course in Miracles this year. I'm going to do one a day. I didn't think about it because if I thought about it, I wouldn't have done it because it was a very big project.